Welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Zone. I'm your co-host, Tom Spitalere. And Bob's here today. Hey, Bob, how we doing?
Good. How you doing, Tom?
I'm wonderful. So the Paranormal Zone is set up so we can bring in different ideas of the paranormal from different paranormal teams, Wiccan groups, cryptozoology, and ufology. You can follow us on all our events are on Spreaker at Lawrence on YouTube at Lawrence Community Access TV, so you can go back and listen to some of the 26 or 27 other episodes we have done. We're moving along, Bob. I can't believe it.
Sure are.
And last week's episode was a great episode, and this week's is going to be just as good. So today I want to welcome Unique Paranormal 105, all the way from the great state of Pennsylvania. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
All right. Well, welcome to the show. How are we doing today?
Thank you. Doing really well. How are you guys?
Good. I always
Shawnna.
wonder, Shawnna, when we have guests from far away, we have a nice warm New England night. How's the weather out in Pennsylvania? Is it snowing yet?
No, not yet. Hopefully that won't be for a while, but we've been into the mid-low 70s during the daytime and down to in about 40s and 50s at night. So it's not too brisk yet.
No, not yet. You get that lake effect snow out there, or are you further?
Sometimes we're a little bit more south, but usually I'm originally from Michigan, so usually I talk to my family, and the day after they get something, then we get it. So, but not as much ice as they get there.
Oh, so you're from the capital of the snow world, Michigan.
That I am. They call it the snow globe of the world. That's for sure.
I served on a board real quick with a guy from Michigan, and we have winter meetings and we do Zoom, right? And I'm like, so how's the weather? He goes, oh no, it's snowing out, but not bad. We're only getting a half a foot of snow. Well, for us, half a foot's a lot, but for Michigan,
yeah,
it's really.
I will say, like our winters here have gotten a lot milder in Pennsylvania, so I'm not complaining about that.
Oh, good. Alrighty then. So we're gonna start talking a little bit about what you do. So how'd you come up with this unique name? Because Unique Paranormal 105 definitely is unique.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it all started basically, my mother, Holly Cataldo, who is pretty widely known in the paranormal community out here. She started this group, I want to say, about 8 years ago, and she originally called it Unique Paranormal 1. So, and over the years, I went and did things with her and her friends and her groups and just got to experience, the paranormal field a little bit, and met some amazing people. And unfortunately, last year, I believe it was in July, she had been having some health issues for quite some time, and she was diagnosed with terminal cancer, and she unfortunately passed away in September of last year.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And so, well, thank you. And after that, I decided, because through my mom, I met so many amazing people, did so many wonderful things, learned so much, that I was going to continue the group in her honor, and therefore renamed the group Unique Paranormal 1.5. Okay. So one for her, half for myself.
Yeah.
And that's how Unique Paranormal 1.5 was born.
So Shawnna, how does Mom get interested in the paranormal to begin with? She
had always had some psychic medium abilities. The paranormal just always intrigued her whole life. And it wasn't until she moved actually out towards the Boston area and then later to Westchester that she met a group of local investigators. And I think the biggest thing for people who actually don't get into paranormal is because they just don't really know a whole lot of people or where to start or who to reach out to be able to do these types of things. So that's what I've actually just recently found out within the last couple months, that a lot of people would love to do it, but just don't know where to start or who to reach out to. So she stumbled upon some wonderful people out in Westchester, and that's when she started her own group, and it took off from there.
Oh, so you do have some ties to Massachusetts then, a little bit.
Not me personally. I've never been out there, but Mom knew quite a few people out that way. The biggest group of people I'd say that she introduced me to was more here in Pennsylvania, over by Gettysburg, in a town called Waynesboro. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of stuff out there at the 1912 historic Hoover House in Waynesboro. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that.
Okay.
So that area is where I met a lot of people.
Yeah. Of course, Gettysburg is a great spot.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely is. Absolutely.
I've had the pleasure of being at Gettysburg on 2 occasions, and it is quite an active battlefield, actually.
It still is.
Yeah.
It still is.
Yeah.
It really is.
It's an incredible place. If nobody's ever got to go, you should definitely put it on your bucket list for sure.
Yeah. Whether you're interested in the paranormal or not, I think just the history and the tragedy that took place on that battlefield is well worth seeing from a historical point of view.
Absolutely.
Yeah. How many people on your team, Shawnna?
We have about 6 to 8 that participate regularly. But we don't necessarily like to say like, oh, we have this many people, because it's an open book policy for us. If anybody ever wants to come along, anybody's more than welcome.
Oh, good. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And do you experience a turnover of people?
No, not really.
Really?
Like I said, we've only been doing this for about a year now that I've actually, really started progressing and moving forward with this. But I think we have about a good solid 6 or 7 that are pretty committed.
Yeah, that's great. I think it was interesting when you said that, people that want to get into the realm of paranormal research really seem to be very confused on how to do it, and yet there are just so many teams available out there across the United States. It's just too bad that we don't somehow have a collective database for people from Florida that want to get involved, that we could connect them with in Florida.
Right. I totally agree. And like I said, over the last year, I've had so many people that we've come across that they're just like, oh, we love ghost hunting, and we'd love to experience stuff like that. We just never knew anybody or anywhere to reach out to get involved with anything. So,
yeah, Tom and I do a lot of work with historical societies here in New England, and we kind of focus on old meeting houses, which tend to be very active, but they also have that historical aspect to them. And we meet a lot of people that way that come to our lectures, our investigations, and then eventually come up and say, how do I join a team? So we've been pretty fortunate getting people that way, right, Tom?
That is correct. And it's always the historical stuff. I mean, you're in Pennsylvania, so you got great history out there. I mean,
it's every direction you turn out here.
I mean, this is a great paranormal podcast tonight, because we have 3 of the original 13 colonies on the phone right now. Bob's up in New Hampshire. I'm in the Massachusetts where it all started. And you're in the state that, that actually was the national capital. Oh, and where our fight to be free was, Gettysburg.
All right.
So, I mean, and where I'm located is less than 30 minutes from the Concord Lexington Bridge.
Wow.
So, I mean, we got it all right here.
Yeah, right.
Sure do.
Yeah. Shawnna, do you get a chance to do Gettysburg very much?
I did with my mom when she was alive. We have explored the Jenny Wade house. We did an investigation there a couple years back. The orphanage not far up the road from there. We had a fantastic investigation there. Besides, like walking around the grounds and stuff, you're not allowed to be out anywhere past dark, but You can go over to Sachs Bridge. We've investigated that quite a few times. There's just lots of little hidden gems all around that town that you can just randomly stop, and the activity is phenomenal. It's just the energy of the land, and like you said, the history. There's just so much. And then we do a lot. Like I said, we go to the 1912 Hoover House, which is in Waynesboro, which is about, I want to say it's only about 20 minutes outside of Gettysburg. And it's another very historic little town. There's a couple old inns. And I want to say the Hoover House was like a senior assisted living back in the day. So they get a lot of activity there. We've actually done quite a bit of stuff there. So
I mean,
it's
that's
definitely a town that you need a good month to get around and get some experiences in.
Wow, that's cool.
So
definitely.
I mean, Pennsylvania is interesting in itself. I mean, people think of Pennsylvania, they just think of the big city, but there's a lot more to Pennsylvania than that. I mean.
Yeah, a lot of people think Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, but all the in between is just is amazing.
I mean, you have Amish country out there. You have French Indian war sites out there that are extremely haunted. And the reason why I know more about my background, I'm a history major. Mm-hmm. My background in school was the Viking settlements in New England to the end of the Civil War, which covered the French Indian War, because my hometown was the birth of Major Robert Rogers, who had Rogers Rangers, who went up into the Canada. And then the industrial history, because my family was involved in the strike of 1912. They were leaders of the Portuguese and the Italian movement. So, and your first socialist mayor in the United States is actually buried right outside of Pennsylvania. He was actually from Haverhill, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's quite an interesting history. And when you, I mean, let's get away from the war period. You have a lot of mills in Pennsylvania, in certain parts of Pennsylvania, and wherever you got mills, you're going to have some activity. Have you ever done any of the mill buildings?
We have not. We actually just found, and you'll have to forgive me, I can't remember the name of it. We recently moved to a new town last year, and there's actually a historical site about 5 miles from us that there's still like an old stack from the building, and they actually made it a historical site from one of the mills that used to run there. For the life of me, I can't remember what the name of it is, but we're hoping soon to be able to get over there. We've just been so busy with everything else. But yeah, it was neat to find out we had something so close to home that we could go check out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
interesting. Shawnna, I'm always interested in, because Tom brings up the other point that between the three of us, we have probably 100 years of paranormal experience. So I'm runs a team today, been in the paranormal world for probably 30 years, and I ran a team for 20 years, and then I joined Tom's team. But what's your favorite equipment to use? I always like to ask this question because we all seem to have a different favorite equipment.
Well, if it had to be a piece of equipment, I would have to say either just your basic digital recorder to play back in the moment, or a mag light. Possibly just a little maybe even a basic K2, but otherwise it's just my own senses, to be honest with you.
So
really,
yeah.
Wow. So what's yours, Tom?
So I like using a pendulum.
I know you do.
I like using a once in a while. I will pull this out. I don't when I do public events. I'll be frank and honest with you. But sometimes I like pulling out my mini cassette player, not digital, cassette. Mm-hmm. And if it's an interesting enough case, I will actually bring my 35 millimeter cameras with us. I have regular cameras. And the system we use, and I don't take it out that often because everybody wants to shoot me at the end of the day. You know how paranormal teams have these, video camera setups, DVR systems?
Oh, yeah.
My system is interesting. Bob's seen it. Yeah. It's a 10 to 12 channel DVR system. Okay? Mm-hmm. So it's about 3,000 feet of cordage, 10 to 12 TVs, and 10 to 12 cameras.
It is so funny you are saying this because everything that you love, my mother did. I have her cassette recorder.
Yeah.
It's about the size of a purse.
Yeah.
And I have her DVR system with the 300 feet of cord.
Wow.
Yeah, so I definitely understand. That's how I used to do things with her when she was here, for sure. That's the way she rolled, and that's what we did.
And the reason why I do it this way, and there's nothing wrong with new age equipment. I don't want people, blowing up our Facebook pages later on going, well, I do trash, and I'm not trashing new age equipment. A 35 millimeter camera has a slower aperture, so you're bound to catch more with a film camera.
Makes sense.
And same with a recorder. A tape recorder runs at a slower aperture speed than a digital recorder. Now, the nice thing about digital is you plug it into your favorite system and you look at the lines and then you can move and listen things quicker. Yes, there is good things about digital, but you're bound to pick more up with a regular cassette because the aperture speed of the cassette's slower. The best EVP stuff to use, the best equipment to use for EVP, I've only used it once, and because I have trouble I have plenty of music on this, but I've only used it once, and that's an old reel-to-reel system.
Okay.
Now, my father had a reel-to-reel. He's got 3 of them. I own them all since he passed away. But you can't find the empty film. But that's what the Warrens used to use.
Mm-hmm.
That's that big thing, and you see in the movie The Conjuring. You ever seen the movie? That big thing? That's actually a reel-to-reel portable. That's what they were called back then.
Is that rough to lug around with you from place to place?
Well, it would be if you have to keep an extension cord plugged into it. You have to watch what you're doing. I have to figure out some type of battery pack. That's what it is. But if you're in an old house or something, and I actually did this for the Bill Rick Historical Society. I brought that for a talk there. But, you keep it in a room where it's haunted and it's plugged in and you don't have to run it around and you just run the, recorder and it's a little easier. But, I mean, that's why, I have a lot of old equipment. I know, Bob, why don't you explain what you like to use because you love this piece of equipment.
Yeah, really, I come from the old school. I love the digital recorder. Shawnna, I think you're right about that. But I use a K2 meter. I have found over the years that whatever it is in my energy aura, I get so much better results off of the K2 than I do. I've tried Ghost Box. I've tried all kinds of different things and had mild success with them. But most of the venues that I've done, I seem to have great success with the K2 meter. And I think it's something to do with my energy field. That it's strong enough that it opens up the K2. But I find that, I don't know if everyone finds this, but I find that spirits will talk to me quicker because they're more comfortable with me. I think sometimes when we roll out too much equipment, that it concerns them as to what all this equipment is and what it's doing. The K2 is so simple to explain to them that when I say to them, this isn't going to harm you or affect your energy level at all, just make the lights light up. How many times, Tom, do we see that go crazy?
Oh, yeah. A lot of the times it goes crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Now, again, I'm with Tom. I'm in the school that I don't knock technology. I think technology is great. And I think someday in the future, technology will give us a stronger connection to prove that spirits exist. Because I think right now we could say that there is no real definitive evidence that people can believe. So when Tom and I do a lecture and we show some slides and we show some pictures, we know that 50% of our audience is thinking, they made that up somehow. They photoshopped that or something. The other 50% believe it. I think the day will come, Shawnna, when the piece of equipment comes out that we can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that the paranormal exists.
Well, and here, not even speaking about equipment, I think a big part of it is, too, because before my mom got into all this, I was probably one of the biggest skeptics that there was out there. And I think a big part of getting pulled into the paranormal is having an actual experience yourself, something happening to you that pulls you in. Because then you're like, there's no scientific or logical reasoning for this. And that's what it was for me. It took something actually physically happening to me for me to be like, okay, let's dig some more into this and see what else we can experience.
So let me quickly, our listeners have heard this story many times, and I'll make it very quick. My wife and I were on a cruise to Bermuda, and we got off the ship in Bermuda, and we toured the governor's mansion. And she was in one room, I was in another. I went out in the balcony, turned around, and there was a figure standing down the end of the hall, dressed in 1600 period garb, dress. I said hello, didn't really acknowledge me. Went back in there. Long story short, we went down, we were leaving, and the ranger down at the front door, I said to him, when does the show start? And he said, what show? And I said, I'm sorry, I saw somebody in kind of dress, 1600 dress, and I thought maybe you were putting on a show or an exhibition or something. He laughed and he said, oh, no, that's our resident's ghost you saw, Peter. And I said, oh, yeah, okay. Well, you got a dumb tourist here, and I get it. I get the act. Well, all the way back on the cruise, I couldn't shake this vision I saw. Because even if the ranger was just, jerking my chain, if you will, that doesn't account for what I saw.
Right.
Right? And I had zero interest in the paranormal. None.
Right.
And by the time I got
back it took Boston, something happening to you to pull you in. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. I had to go figure out what it was. I had to, my wife kept saying to me, will you forget it? It was nothing. I kept saying to her, of course it was more than nothing. I saw this thing. So I agree with you. It is something that drags you in that you then set out to prove what Tom and I always say, we're looking for the truth, whatever the truth is.
Right. Exactly.
No, it's...
So what was your experience, Shawnna?
Basically, I was laying in bed at night, and my hand was just so slightly draped over the bed, and I had sensed a presence in this space for quite a while, but, never really had any encounters. Nothing really ever happened. And my hand was draped over the side of the bed, and I was just laying down, kind of like, winding down, thinking about the day. And as just as if I were to take my finger and press down in the center of your hand to, push my hand into the bed, that's what happened to me. Like something on the side of the bed with just a finger pressed my hand down. And it actually startled me in the moment. I was like, what the heck was that? And did I really just feel that? And I was like, yeah, I totally did. And just from there, it was like an intuition opened up in me, and I was more receptive to things happening, and it just whirlwinded from there.
Yeah. It really does become awareness. When Tom and I do a home investigation, there are so many people that will say, well, I heard knocks on the wall or footsteps in the hall, but I didn't think anything of it. And I often think to myself, so you heard footsteps, but you didn't think anything of it. It's kind of weird.
But I've learned that a lot of people with scientific brains can just dismiss it for whatever reason. Now, like me, I would be just going to check it out and see what was happening. Yeah. But a lot of people with a scientific brain and they can just dismiss it and be like, oh, it was something creaking or something fell or maybe it was the cat or whatever, and they can just carry on and never give it another thought.
Yeah, so you wonder how many people miss that opportunity because of that, your words, that scientific brain, right? How many of them actually miss the opportunity to get involved with it?
Right.
Well, the other thing, too, I mean, I've discussed this on multiple shows through the years. I'd like your opinion on this. I think we've had a lot more sightings, especially the last few years because of this. Well, we had to live through the new age of COVID, and more people are sitting at home all day. Some people were working from home, but there were a lot of people out of work during COVID. So, I mean, I'm wondering now, and I've discussed this in depth on other shows, but you'd think with people at home during COVID, they were apt to seeing more than they would if there was no COVID.
Yeah, I think
I don't know. I've never really thought about that.
Yeah. You know, I think the other thing that I'm sure all three of us have experienced over the years is that, you know, when somebody has their first paranormal experience, they're very reluctant to tell too many people about it. It's like spotting a UFO. You know, in our support groups, UFO folks that have been abducted will tell you the worst part, beyond the abduction, obviously, but the other part is they have nobody really to tell it to because they're so afraid of repercussions from that. So even spouses, Tom, we've run into many cases where a spouse calls us first before they even talk to their wife or husband.
Right.
And I always hear in these investigations, well, I haven't mentioned that to my husband yet because he'll think I'm crazy.
Right.
Exactly.
And I think, how sad is that you feel like you're trapped, whether you're a male or female, it's irrelevant, but you feel like you're trapped in this situation that you would talk to a stranger about it, but you wouldn't talk to your own spouse.
Now I got a question here. I don't know if it's on that. If you can answer this, because obviously we're all paranormal investigators and we know some stuff has to be made private or quiet.
Yep.
What was probably the most dangerous case you think you've had? Or dangerous situation?
Okay. Well, it actually was just recently, and I was going to bring this up in a few minutes, but perfect timing. So we are actually in the process of purchasing a location for future investigations, and it is in for your history buff here in a town called Loretto, Pennsylvania. So much history in this little town. It was founded in 1799 by a gentleman by the name of Prince Gallitzin. I believe he was the Prince of Holland. And he came in and founded the town, and he was the main priest in this town. He then later teamed up with Schwab, which everybody knows Schwab from this Pittsburgh steel mining and all of that.
Right.
So Schwab Estates is actually in this town as well, where also the Prince Gallitzin, he established his church, and the church is now a minor basilica. So you have the Schwab Estates at one end of this, and it's a little tiny town at one end, and then you have the minor basilica at the other end, and you have Prince Gallitzin's tomb out front that you can go down into. They have a little museum. Well, this house that we are in the process of purchasing was one of two of the very first homes ever built in this town. I don't want to give a whole lot of information about the town itself, just because I like it to be fresh for everybody to go in and see.
Right.
But there was basically, we took a couple people from our group there to investigate it for the first time, and we were in the living room area, and we were chit-chatting, and, you know, where does everybody want to start? And in that moment, there was like, it literally sounded like somebody took a metal baseball bat and hit the floor, from the living room floor, from underneath. It sounded like a shotgun went off downstairs in the basement. It was so forceful that someone in the living room actually rose up with the floor while it thumped up. So we immediately went down to the cellar, and it's like the old stone stacked cellar area.
Right.
And there was absolutely nothing down there. No, nothing wrong with the beams or the structure. The room was completely empty. So literally, first time in there, we started things with a bang, and that was definitely the biggest encounter reaction that I've ever experienced in the last 10 years, for sure. It was definitely got your heart thumping.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So we're excited. We're hoping to have everything settled and ready, and we'll be able to start inviting people in to come and check it out and see what they think about the place.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah.
Let
me guess.
A road trip coming.
I see road trip coming too. I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Absolutely, you guys are more than welcome.
I had a big image too. I see a road trip coming.
I'm telling you though, look up the history of Loretto, Pennsylvania. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. I didn't even know this little place existed.
Maybe we can bring some camping equipment, tent in there the whole night.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
That's right up my alley.
There you go. We have a camper. We'll just park it out front for you.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. Road trip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Road trip, and maybe if we could get some electronic equipment finally working, right? We could do a live podcast from there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That'd be fantastic.
That would be awesome, actually.
That works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. So yeah, just give us a heads up when you get that open.
Yeah, no problem. I definitely will.
No, Tom, we're making enough money. We can afford to do that, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. You guys want to do a podcast? Just come up. No worries. Just come on up.
We're actually looking at venues right now, Shawnna, to take the Paranormal Zone outside of the actual studios.
That's
we've been
fantastic.
very fortunate to have guests on from London and some other countries. So we're starting out, and Tom and I have talked quite a bit about it's time to take this show on the road. We think,
yes,
and do more, podcasts from locations. I think our listeners would enjoy that a lot more. Before we get too close to closing here, Shawnna, feel free to give out any information that you'd like on this podcast where people can contact you, whether it be your email, whether it be your Facebook page. We have guests that give out phone numbers. We don't always recommend that, but certainly if you want to do that, that's your choice.
Yeah, we keep it pretty simple. We have Facebook and Instagram. It's just under Unique Paranormal 1.5. We also have email, which is uniqueparanormal1.5@gmail.com. But that's about it at this point. Like I said, we're kind of like the paranormal newborns right now. Just we got a year under our belts, and we've made a lot of strides, and we're doing some great things. So we're really excited. Like I said, I've done this for a lot of years with Mom, but this is the first year of actually having our feet on the ground and running and making a change and making some big steps.
I mean, once you get the first year on the ground, the next 30 will go by real easy. The next 40 will go by real easy. And the next 100 years will go by even easier. It's just getting down that first year.
Yeah.
Well, we made it, so...
I'd like to think that Mom is behind this for you.
Of course she is.
I'm thinking so. I feel every day that she's super proud of me, and she would be ecstatic about all the things we have going on. So, it's given me a purpose and has helped me heal, and doing this in her honor it's actually an honor for me to keep her legacy going. So
she gave birth to you, and she gave birth to the paranormal.
You got it.
So is there any other places that you've been to that you said you've been to a few public events? Is there any good public ones you'd like to talk about that might have happened to you? Because obviously public events, you want people to come back to when you do them.
Yeah, the biggest public event that we attend is actually the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash in Gettysburg. It's an organization that they throw a big, huge event to raise funds for wounded warriors, veterans, and kids with cancer. I've attended it every year. Yeah, I've attended it every year with my mom since they started it. I believe, I want to say maybe 6 years ago, possibly 7.
Wow.
But we've gone every year. Me and my mom went together. Then my daughter started joining us with Mom, so it's been a yearly tradition for us. The people who run it are amazing, wonderful people. They're like family to us. So that's the number one event that we absolutely attend every single year.
So while you're out there at that event, have you picked anything up on the battlefields or anything out there, or is this?
Oh yeah, you can't go anywhere without getting some activity. It's crazy activity out there. My mom had some photos from her 35 millimeter camera of actual soldiers on the battlefield. There was one, an apparition of a soldier, like you could see half of him from behind a big, huge tree, and then the other half was blocked by the tree. There was just so many things. Like I said, definitely, if no one's ever been there, I definitely, like I said, recommend that you put it on your bucket list for sure. It's an incredible place.
Is there a reason that Gettysburg won't allow people in there after dark?
I think because, people tend to be irresponsible, and then they do things that, is not respectful. Like pretty much happens anywhere. People can't just act like adults and be respectful of the property. So I think, and I'm just speculating, I don't know 100% sure, but that would be my speculation as to why, is because people aren't respectful of the property after dark.
Right, because...
I tend to agree with you there.
Right, because even I run a cemetery, Hilldale Cemetery. You follow me on Facebook, you'll see I run a lot of events out of there. And I got, people call, and then sometimes for like cancer groups and other nonprofits like the Santa Parade in Havel. Well, that reminds me, I got to give them a gift certificate. I'll donate so they can raise some money, okay? Then I get the call from the winner. That's always the fun time. Because I don't like being the middle person, so I always give them my number. Okay, so one of the organizations I gave to recently, they won it. They called me up. Can I have Halloween night? No, I'm already booked. Sorry. Okay, so we come up with a night. They think they can do it. Okay. Do you guys allow beer? No, we don't allow beer.
Yeah. See, they don't. A lot of people just don't have it in them to be respectful of those types of places.
It's like, are you kidding me? Well, first of all, I don't even allow my team to drink before a case. Now, if we go out to eat after the case, you want to have a beer, that's fine. And not that one beer is going to alleviate anybody. I'm not saying that at all. But when you're out on a case, like you both know, you don't know what we're going to run into. We could run into Casper the Friendly Ghost, or we can run into the devil. We don't know what we're walking into.
Exactly.
We need all our senses. So, people think, it's no. It's not it's an educational time. It can be fun to a degree, but we have to keep the partying to a minimum.
Well, and being respectful to spirit is like our number one, rule is being respectful and appreciative, and, the thank yous, and we appreciate you, and all of that all throughout our investigation, I feel is super, super important because, that we're there to learn from them.
Right. No, that's what it should be. I mean, I think only once or twice I've had to push the envelope, and sometimes maybe down the road you may have to, that's still up to you guys. But if I go on a house case and there's a little child that was shoved down a flight of stairs, and I've had that happen years ago, 2 different times, 2 different cases, 2 different states, and you're not making contact with anything, and people are getting hurt, then you have to push the envelope a little bit.
Right.
But you prefer not to, but to say, well, every case we've ever done, I've never pushed the envelope, would not be right to say, because, as you know, Bob, sometimes you have to push it. You try not to, but you have to.
I mean,
and I don't feel there.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, anytime you're dealing with the public, you're going to deal with different personalities. You're going to deal with different types of people. Over the 20 years that I've been doing this, I've been very lucky that we haven't run into too many problems, frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, and luckily we haven't either. Like, we basically, it's, these are our standards and these are the ethics that we're trying to practice. And if this isn't okay with you, that's okay. You can choose your own journey, but this is the path that we're on. We're not, there's no drama here. There's no any of that stuff. And this is to, honor my mom and keep what she did going on in a positive way.
Right.
And if, if that's not you, that's okay. I mean, to each is their own. That's okay. But then this just isn't for you. And it's okay to set your boundaries.
Shawnna, one thing that's worked really well for Tom and I, we're constantly on the lecture tour up here in New England. We've had great success with libraries, turning in crowds of, I don't know, Tom, would you say average 40 to 60?
Yeah, depending on, usually that's what we get.
Depending on the size of the libraries.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I just said that's fantastic. That's all I said.
Yeah. Have you done the library circuit down there at all?
Not at all. No.
Yeah. Take a look at it and check with your libraries. First of all, they're very receptive to this, believe it or not.
Okay.
The second thing you get out of it is that the library will do a lot of marketing for you. But as you do these presentations, you'll get people coming that not only have experiences in it, but are looking to join a team.
Okay.
So,
fantastic.
And everybody says, well, what will I talk about? Talk about your experiences. Talk about how you get into it. Talk about, like you talked about on this podcast. Tom and I have a lot of success doing that. The second place that Tom and I have hit home runs, and I think it's because of Tom's background being a history major, is that we do a lot of work with historical societies. We go to their venues. We raise a lot of money for them, and Tom and I don't take a nickel of that money. Whatever we raise goes directly to them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, by doing that, Shawnna, we get more invitations to places because they know we're not in this for the dollar.
Well, I'll tell you, when you guys come up here to check out the Loretto House, you should stop in Ebensburg, which is only about 10 minutes from there, and their historical society just reopened. It's called the Ebensburg Old Stone Jail, and they have just reopened that back up to the public to book investigations. The Historical Society did. Fantastic town. Oh, yeah. So I would, if you guys make it out this way, I'd make it a twofer and hit the Loretto House and then stop into that Historical Society for sure.
Yeah, we would definitely do that.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
But anyway, it's a good model for you to look at with your team. And if you ever want to discuss it, give me a call. I'd be happy to talk to you about it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Our pleasure.
So, with that, is there anything else that happened? Is there any other exciting places in the area that you have investigated or wanted to investigate in Pennsylvania? Say someone's listening from the world around us, and they want to go to Pennsylvania on a ghost hunt, and they want to do a week and do a couple places. What would you suggest they do?
Well, close to us, there's a couple small places. Like I said, that Old Stone Jail in Ebensburg. We're actually going to be visiting there in about 2.5 weeks. We're excited to do that. We have Hinsdale House, actually, even though it's not in Pennsylvania, it's right on the border. So it's not very far from where we are here.
Yes, the Hinsdale House. I know investigators that have gone from this area out there. Have you done the Hinsdale House?
We have, yes.
How is that? That's pretty much a public event. Did you catch anything exciting there while you were there?
Not real crazy. We did get a lot of activity that wasn't relatable to the things that are claimed to have happened there. We did get activity, but not a lot of, like I said, like the things that are more attached to the Hinsdale house.
Right.
We had a fantastic time. It's a great location. The people are wonderful. And like I said, there is definitely activity there, and we will definitely go back again.
Now,
and it's like I said, go ahead.
Yeah, how was the land? I know a team that went out there, and all they talked about was they had a lot of stuff that happened in the wooded area. Did you guys do a lot of land stuff too?
We did actually. Back right up behind the house. It's a little bit of an incline that you have to go up, but they have some like railroad ties, and they made like some homemade steps to get up there back in the woods. But there definitely is a lot of intriguing energy up there for sure. All along the entire back of the property. I believe somebody that was with us that came along for the ride had mentioned, I want to say that they sent like some skinwalkers or something like that.
Wow.
I want to say that's not quite the appropriate word, but it was something along those lines that basically caused them to bail from the situation.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. That's the information I had received, and I want to get out there. I just haven't had the time because I'm going 7 days a week. Now, this is the second group of people that went to the Hinsdale house that said the same thing. And, I mean, I've dealt with Pudgewuckies before. So Skinwalkers was one of those things is on the list. But
well, then that's confirmation. Then if you heard it from another group and we got the same information, then
you guys
pretty neat.
And the groups, you probably wouldn't even know who the other group is because they're down from down this way. So it's not, so that's cool.
Right.
I mean,
definitely.
That's what the show's all about. That's why we ask these questions. So if there's another group listing that might have had the same thing happen, since it is a public event, they go, oh, so that's 3 people that we've heard it happened to.
Right,
3 groups. And I'll repeat this again. Essex County has not gone to the Hinsdale house. Bob, have you ever been there?
No, I haven't. No. All the years that I've been I've never done that.
Looks like you have 2 road trips you need to
Well, actually, you could do it all on one road trip. Hit the Hinsdale house and then head out to you guys.
Another place out here that is fantastic to investigate is the Hillview Manor out towards Newcastle. It's a fantastic building. It's ginormous. You definitely won't get through the whole place in one night, but that place is full of activity as well.
What happened there? Anything you can talk about there? Sounds like that was interesting.
It was I want to say what was several things throughout the years. Originally, it was like a poor farm, and then it was like a facility for the mentally challenged. Then there was a whole bunch of psychiatric patients there, I believe. And then it was like at the end, I believe it was a home for the mentally challenged. Like if sorry, my clock is dinging here in the background. That you gotta love those grandfather clocks.
Gotta love
the people with challenges that couldn't live on their own. That's where they were sent to, and a lot of them passed away there. Like the whole basement is still full of everybody's belongings. There's still rooms set up. There's still medical records throughout the entire facility. Wheelchairs, beds, you name it. It's a really fantastic place, and it's quite large. It would take you a good while to get through it.
Oh,
who controls that place right now? The state?
No, actually. And again, if you go on their website, it's called Hillview Manor. It was a couple who had originally bought the facility, and they were going to turn it into apartments. But then the mother, from what I hear, is the mother had passed away, so then the children inherited the property, and only one of the kids wanted anything to do with it. and it somehow fell in the hands of a paranormal group who made a suggestion of using it for paranormal, and it worked, and they've just kept it going. So it's one of those, one of the children, and she's very active there. We actually just did a big vending event there. Super nice woman, really nice place, great staff, very flexible with anything. So. And that was another thing I mentioned. We did a vending event there. Is that we do vending stuff, and we sell crystals to raise money for our group to help pay to keep going to all this stuff. And because everybody knows this stuff gets expensive.
Oh,
so any little bit of money that we raise from doing that goes straight to the group and helps us travel around to experience more stuff.
Well, that's great. That's a great way to do it.
It is, actually.
What's that?
That's a great way of doing it.
Yeah. Works for us.
Yeah.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, Shawnna, you have been a great guest. Let me just comment quickly here at the end that from what you've told us, your mom sounded like a tremendous woman. And I'm just so proud of you carrying on her legacy the way you are. I think that's a wonderful thing. And I'm sure that she's right there with you every step of the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You were a great guest. And Tom and I always say to our guests, we'd love to have you back on in a couple months or so.
Absolutely.
And follow up to, some of the things you're doing. We will send you all of the information on the podcast. Feel free to use it any way you choose.
Wonderful. Thank you.
If you'd like to use it in your marketing, that's fine.
Okay. Awesome. All right, yeah, and then when we have the Loretto house ready to go, I'll get a hold of you guys too, and see if you want to get out there, or we could do another podcast and talk about whatever we have up and coming out there.
We can certainly do that. That's not an issue at all. Yeah. That'll be fun.
Yeah, we could actually do a podcast while they're doing the investigation, even on a call-in basis.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we don't have to be physically on site.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
But
we're open to anything. We're willing to try anything.
Yeah, we'll make sure it works for you. So
perfect. You guys have been wonderful. Thank you so much.
No problem. I want to thank you very much, Shawnna, and have a great evening, the rest of your evening tonight. I want to thank everybody who tuned in tonight. This was a great show, Bob. Thank you, Bob, for co-hosting this. This was a great show. So I want to thank everybody who tuned in from England to Australia to Germany to South America and beyond. Just one last thing I want to do, little self-promotion. We have this Friday and Saturday night we'll be at Haunted Hilldale Cemetery. It's part of Essex National Heritage Trails and Sales, so we hope to see you there. Friday night we'll be on equipment, and Saturday night's going to be a Saturday night special. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's going to be a great time as long as the weather holds out. But it will be a Saturday night special. And then, Bob, we have 2 events coming up in October. We got a lot more than that, but we got the Sandown Meeting House. What day is that again?
I believe that's October 10th.
Yeah, and then the following Saturday is the train station.
Is the train station. Yeah, we're going back to the Sandown train station. Which, as you remember, Tom, last year we had a lot of activity in that building.
Oh, God,
and of course, October 10th, we're going back to my favorite place, the Sandown Meeting House.
Yeah.
If our guests, listeners, haven't been there before, you need to come just to see the house itself. It's well worth the take. Admission is free. Bring as many people as you'd like. So come on down to the train station in Sandown. It's a night that you won't forget because we always have activity down there too. So
that we do.
Looking forward to some good things coming up.
That we do. And next week we'll have another great guest on. I want to thank everybody again for tuning in, and I'm heading back to the crypt. I'll see you all soon. Thank you very much, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.